Welcome back, Hammers. If you love West Ham news and updates, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments what you think. Let's get started. In recent days, an event that seemed far removed from West Ham's reality has taken on massive proportions and could redefine the direction not only of the club, but of the entire Premier League. Manchester City, after years of legal battles, has finally reached an agreement with the league regarding sponsorship rules involving associated parties. To the average supporter, this may sound like someone else's problem, something that concerns only City and its billionaire owners. But on closer inspection, the decision has deep ramifications that could directly affect the competitive balance of the league and consequently the Hammers' future. The subject may seem dry, but let's break it down. Since 2021, the Premier League had established rules called Associated Party Transactions, AP rules, designed to prevent clubs with extremely wealthy owners, particularly states and conglomerates, from artificially inflating their revenue through sponsorship. Contracts with companies linked to those same owners. The classic example is City and its deal with Etihad Airways, an airline controlled by Abu Dhabi. For the league, it would be unfair for an owner to simply inject unlimited money into the club disguised as sponsorship, upsetting competition. These rules determined that any contract considered associated had to undergo a fair market value assessment. In other words, the Premier League had the power to intervene and cap the declared sponsorship amount if it deemed it far above what would be reasonable for the market. The intention was noble to preserve competitiveness. However, City did not accept these restrictions passively and took the matter to court. In February this year, an arbitration tribunal decided that the old rules valid from 2021 to 2024 were null and unenforceable. The verdict claimed that the Premier League had overstepped its limits when drafting the regulations. Despite this, in November 2024, the league updated the rules and created a new version. And it was precisely these that led to the most recent agreement City accepted, that the 2024 rules are valid and binding, while the Premier League in turn avoided a prolonged legal battle. In practice, this means that Manchester City will be able to move forward with new sponsorship deals of astronomical proportions as long as they respect the fair market value test. The problem, as many experts point out, is that this test is extremely subjective. It is estimated that City's new deal with Etihad could bring in between $1.5 and $1.75 billion over 10 years. For comparison, this figure is far higher than any sponsorship West Ham could even dream of signing today. While state-owned giants rely on petrodollars and multinational conglomerates in the background, the Hammers still depend on more traditional commercial partnerships, kit manufacturers, local companies, mid-sized deals, and until recently, betting firms printed on their shirts. This financial disparity translates directly onto the pitch. More money means deeper squads, marquee signings, retention of established stars, and inevitably more trophies. For clubs like West Ham, it means greater difficulty in keeping talents, such as Jared Bowen, who frequently attracts interest from ultra-wealthy teams, or in building squads capable of consistently fighting for European spots. And it's not just Manchester City. The deal sets a precedent that will certainly be closely followed by Newcastle United, now under the control of Saudi Arabia's investment fund. If City can legitimize multi-million-pound sponsorships with companies linked to its owners, why couldn't Newcastle do the same with Saudi giants? And so little by little, the so-called Big Six is likely to consolidate not only as an elite group, but as an untouchable one out of reach for the rest of the league. For second-tier Premier League clubs, West Ham, Aston Villa, Everton, Brighton, and others, the reality is cruel evermore, money concentrated at the top and fewer chances to dream big. This is precisely what financial fair play FFP rules and sponsorship regulations were created to counter. But in light of the new decision, the impression is that the Premier League has once again yielded to the interests of the most powerful. The contrast is striking. Everton, for instance, was recently punished with a points deduction for financial irregularities linked to loans and stadium interest. Yet City, even under more than 100 formal charges of FFP violations, seems to sail smoothly after this agreement. For many, it is a clear system of double standards in which the giants enjoy privileges while the rest bear the burden of punishment. West Ham must now reflect on which path to take in the coming years. The club has no state-owned conglomerate behind it, nor billion-pound companies tied to its current owners. The Hammer's financial reality is much more modest. This, however, does not mean there are no alternatives for growth. West Ham has already proven it can be creative in its management and achieve relevance even without the bottomless coffers that clubs like Manchester City and Newcastle enjoy. The 2023 Conference League title is a clear example, a historic triumph built with intelligence, collective spirit, and an unbreakable connection with the fans. This kind of achievement shows that money alone does not guarantee glory, even if it's smoothed away. But looking ahead, it is inevitable that the Hammers will need to fully explore their commercial potential. In 2026-27, for instance, the club will undergo an important transformation. For the first time in 15 years, it will switch kit. Supplier signing with New Balance, a North American giant that already outfits major clubs in world football. This deal could mark the beginning of a new era, especially if paired with a major shirt sponsor. Still unresolved since betting deals are set to disappear due to Premier League restrictions. This detail opens a window of opportunity. The North American market is booming, particularly with the 2026 World Cup approaching. It is likely that U.S. companies will seek to link their brand to English clubs to boost global visibility. With its passionate fan base and a London stadium, West Ham could be an attractive destination for such investment. A tech company, a streaming brand, or even multinationals tied to sports entertainment might be interested in filling the shirt space left behind. Moreover, the club could further explore naming rights for the Olympic Stadium. To this day, the London Stadium has no permanent sponsor naming its venue. If properly leveraged, this asset could bring in tens of millions of pounds per season, partially narrowing the gap with the Giants. It won't be enough to match billion-pound figures like City's, but it could become a solid source of recurring revenue. Another route is expanding international presence. West Ham has been gaining attention outside England, especially after recent European campaigns. There are fans across the world, from Brazil to Asia, consolidating a global marketing program with licensed products, multilingual digital content, and official football academies. Abroad could take the club to a new level. Still, the more worrying side cannot be ignored, the risk that the gulf between rich clubs and the rest becomes unbridgeable. If City, Newcastle, Chelsea, and others secure contracts worth hundreds of millions with owner-linked companies, what remains for West Ham? How to compete in the transfer market? How to keep homegrown talents or fan favorites attracting international interest? Jared Bowen's situation is a good example. The forward is one of the club's great symbols, today a decisive player loved by the fans. But if a multi-million-pound offer arrives from a club with infinite resources, how could the Hammers resist? The risk of losing key figures grows while replacing them becomes increasingly difficult. And it is not only players. Managers, staff members, renowned executives all become targets when clubs are willing to pay astronomical sums. The result is a scenario where mid-table teams are trapped in a cycle. They develop talents, see them shine for a few years, and then lose them to the giants. This already happens, but it is likely to intensify. One possible solution is unity among similarly sized clubs. Aston Villa, Everton, Brighton. West Ham and others need to organize politically within the Premier League to push for stricter and fairer rules. After all, any change requires the approval of at least 14 of the 20 clubs. If this group of mid-tier sides feels threatened, it could form a bloc capable of imposing new limits on billionaire maneuvers. Without such movement, the trend is clear: the league risks becoming a predictable competition where only half a dozen clubs have a real chance of winning trophies. This would diminish not only sporting competitiveness, but also public interest, which thrives on the unpredictability and drama the Premier League has always delivered. Amid all this, the power of the fans must not be underestimated. West Ham has one of the most passionate and loyal fan bases in England, marked by London's working-class identity. This emotional bond lasting decades is an asset no billionaire can buy. The unconditional support on European nights at the London Stadium, the contagious energy of the famous bubbles sung at full voice. All this is part of a unique brand that sets the club apart. It is this passion that keeps West Ham alive, competitive and relevant even in the face of vast financial disparities. The club must know how to harness this differential. Creating closer fan experiences, investing in digital media, reinforcing the Hammer identity worldwide. All of this could turn passion from the stands into revenue, strengthening the club in the long run. The decision involving Manchester City is just the tip of the iceberg. It exposes the battle between billionaire clubs seeking ever more space to expand revenues and the rest fighting to maintain minimal competitiveness. For West Ham, it means an enormous challenge finding creative ways to grow protecting talents and continuing to write proud chapters in its history. The future remains open. Perhaps the financial gulf will widen, making dreams harder. Perhaps the mid-table clubs will organize and impose limits, or perhaps West Ham will find an alternative path built on passion, creativity, and intelligence, the key to keep surprising the football world. One thing is certain, regardless of the money flowing in the league, West Ham will always be West Ham, a club of sole identity tradition, a club that has already proven on and off the pitch that it must never be underestimated. And that's all for today's West Ham news. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with fellow fans, and of course subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Come on, you Irons!